The galaxy was loud with voices, but Earth was silent. Long ago, humanity had joined the stars. They traded, they learned, and they grew stronger. But then something changed. One day, Earth closed its gates. No alien ship was allowed to enter. No human ship was allowed to leave. The Galactic Empire was shocked. They called it an insult. How could a young species dare to lock themselves away from the galaxy? At first, the Empire laughed. They said Earth would starve. They said humans would crawl back begging for trade. But months passed, then years, and Earth did not beg. Instead, their silence grew heavier. Alien traders who once saw human colonies now found empty ports. Alien spies who once tried to land on Earth were turned back without a word. It was as if a great wall had risen around the blue planet. Rumors began to spread in every corner of the galaxy. Some said Earth was weak and afraid. Others said they were hiding something. One merchant whispered that he saw new ships near Mars, ships without markings. Another swore he saw the glow of strange weapons on Earth's moon. The Empire dismissed these tales as fear stories, but the whispers refused to die. In the great halls of the Empire, council members argued. One noble slammed his fist and shouted, "Humans think they can defy us. They are nothing but children." Another replied, "Children do not hide in silence for no reason. We should be careful." But the Emperor only smiled coldly. He said, "They closed their gates to us, but no gate can remain shut forever. We are the Empire, and the galaxy belongs to us." Still, even as the Empire planned, scouts reported strange sightings near Earth. A lone patrol ship approached the Sol system, its captain mocking the silence. He ordered his men to scan the gates of Earth, but suddenly all signals went dead. The patrol ship never returned. The Empire called it an accident. But those who listened closely felt a chill. For the people of Earth, silence was not weakness. In the dark of space, their fleets trained in secret. In hidden stations, their scientists worked without rest. And behind their closed gates, humanity watched the galaxy with patient eyes. They remembered how the Empire once treated smaller races. They remembered how free worlds had been enslaved, and they swore, "Never again, not to us, not to anyone." The galaxy continued to move, wars were fought, planets were taken, but Earth remained closed, silent, watching. Aliens grew impatient. They said, "If humans do not open their gates, we will break them." And so the seeds of conflict were planted. One evening in the Empire's council chamber, an admiral rose. He was old, his armor shining with countless medals. He spoke with pride, "Give me a fleet, and I will force the gates of Earth open." The council roared in approval. Finally, someone would end the insult of human silence. The Emperor's eyes gleamed with power. He granted the admiral his wish. A fleet of hundreds was gathered, the most powerful ships of the Empire. They prepared to march toward Earth, to shatter its gates, to show the galaxy that no one defies the Empire. But far away, inside the walls of Earth's silence, humanity prepared too. The people knew the Empire was coming. They had been waiting for this moment. Every closed gate, every silent year, had been building to this day. And in the shadows of the blue planet, a secret power was about to awaken. The galaxy thought Earth was weak. The Empire thought humans were afraid. But soon they would learn the truth. Earth had not closed its gates out of fear. They had closed them to prepare for war. And when the Empire's fleet arrived, they would discover that the silence of Earth was more terrifying than any roar. The fleet of the Empire gathered in the black void of space. Hundreds of warships stood in formation, their silver hulls shining like blades. Their cannons burned with energy. Their engines roared like storms. This was the might of the Empire, a force that had crushed countless worlds. At the center of the fleet stood the flagship, the Eternal Flame. Inside, Admiral Kor sat in his chair, his eyes sharp as steel. He had fought many battles, he had conquered many enemies, but today was different. Today he faced Earth, a planet he believed was weak, arrogant, and foolish enough to close its gates. He promised his emperor that he would tear those gates apart. He promised the galaxy that humans would kneel. The fleet moved forward, past the silent edges of the Sol system. They passed the orbit of Pluto, then Neptune, then Saturn. All was quiet, too quiet. No human ships came to stop them. No warnings, no messages. The soldiers of the Empire laughed. "See, humans are cowards. They hide behind silence because they fear us." But a whisper of doubt grew in Admiral Corr's mind. Silence was never empty. Silence always hid something. Near Jupiter, the first sign appeared. A small object floated in the darkness, black and sharp like a shard of glass. The scanners of the Empire tried to identify it, but the object gave no signal, no heat, no sign of life. A fighter pilot approached it, laughing. "It is just space debris," he said, and then the shard unfolded. Blades of light shot out, cutting through his fighter in a single strike. The pilot's scream echoed before silence took him forever. The fleet tightened its formation. Now they knew Earth was watching. The admiral gave orders. "Stay sharp. Do not underestimate them." But many soldiers still laughed. "What is one trap compared to our fleet of hundreds?" they said. They pressed forward closer to Mars. More shards appeared, floating like shadows, this time dozens, then hundreds. Each shard was small, silent, and deadly. The fleet opened fire, but the shards moved like predators. They weaved between blasts, cutting through ships. One by one, a destroyer exploded, then a cruiser. Screams filled the comms, but Admiral Corr did not panic. He ordered his fleet to push through to reach Earth itself. He believed the humans would not dare face them openly, but he was wrong. As the fleet passed Mars, the void lit up. From the shadows of the red planet, massive shapes emerged. Not shards, not small traps, but colossal warships. They were dark and silent, their designs unknown. No records of such ships existed in any Imperial archive, and yet here they were, rising like titans from the void. The alien soldiers gasped. "Impossible. Humans never had ships like these." Admiral Corr stared at them, his heart heavy for the first time. "Impossible," he whispered, but deep down he knew the truth. This was why Earth had closed its gates, not out of fear, but out of preparation. They had been building an armada in silence. They had been waiting for this day. The war drums of the galaxy had begun to beat. The Empire thought they were hunters, but in the dark of soul, they had stepped into the lion's den. The fleet tightened again. Weapons glowed, shields raised. The battle for Earth's gates was about to begin, and as the first blasts of fire crossed the void, the galaxy would soon learn that silence is never empty. Silence can be the deadliest weapon of all. The black of space lit up with fire. The Empire's fleet opened its cannons. Beams of red light cutting through the void. Explosions echoed between the planets, shaking the silence of Sol. For the first time in years, Earth's gates had been challenged. The shards moved like shadows, hundreds of them. They darted between the blasts, slicing through enemy ships. A destroyer split in two, fire spilling into the void. An Imperial captain screamed before his ship vanished in a white flash. But even as losses grew, Admiral Corr stood tall. His voice thundered. "We are the Empire. We will not be stopped by tricks." He ordered the fleet to form a spearhead. Hundreds of ships aligned into a burning arrow. Their goal was simple: push through the swarm and reach Earth, destroy the gates, and force the humans to surrender. At first, it seemed to work. The shards were many, but the Empire was relentless. Ship after ship forced its way through. Soon they reached the orbit of Mars, and then they saw them. The giants, human warships, black as night and glowing with blue fire. Their designs were strange, sharp, and terrifying. No one in the galaxy had ever seen ships like these. One alien whispered, "This cannot be human." Another shouted, "They must have stolen this from some ancient race." But the truth was worse. These ships were human, born in silence, forged in secret, built with patience, sharpened with fury. The first human warship moved forward, its cannons cold. For a moment it seemed the humans would speak, that they would offer mercy, but no message came. Instead, the warship unleashed a single beam, one strike, one flash. An Imperial battleship, one of the largest in the fleet, split apart like glass. Thousands of soldiers died in an instant. The fleet trembled. Admiral Corr shouted, "Fire everything," and the void turned into a storm. Missiles, beams, plasma, all aimed at the silent human titans. But the warships did not fall. Their shields rippled with strange energy. The attacks broke against them like waves against stone. Then more human warships revealed themselves. From behind the moon, from the shadows of Mars, dozens of them, silent and waiting. The Empire had come to break the gates. But now the invaders realized they were trapped inside them. The humans had closed the system like a cage, and the Empire's fleet was the prey. Panic spread across the comms. Some captains screamed to retreat, others demanded more fire. But Admiral Kor's pride held firm. He shouted, "We are the Empire, we do not run." Yet his heart shook because deep inside he knew the truth. For the first time in his life, the hunter had become the hunted. The humans did not rush. They did not chase. They moved with calm, with patience. Every strike was clean, every ship destroyed with one blow. This was not chaos, this was precision. It was as if the humans had practiced this battle 1,000 times, as if they had been waiting only for this moment. And as the stars burned with war, a single thought spread like fire through the fleet. If this was only the beginning, what greater power did Earth still hide behind its closed gates? Part 4. The Hidden Defense. The void of space was burning. Imperial ships scattered in panic as human warships closed in. The Empire had faced many enemies, but never like this. Every strike from the humans was clean, silent, merciless. Admiral Kor gripped his chair, fury burning in his eyes. He had lost dozens of ships already, but his pride screamed louder than his fear. "Push forward," he ordered. "Earth must fall, no matter the cost." The fleet obeyed, surging toward the blue planet, but as they drew closer, the stars themselves seemed to change. Lights flickered where no ships should be. Strange patterns rippled across the darkness, and then it appeared, Earth's hidden defense, from the shadows. Colossal structures unfolded. They looked like towers of glass and steel, anchored between Earth and the moon, each one glowing with energy. At first the Empire thought they were stations, but then the truth became clear. They were weapons. Weapons larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first tower lit up. A beam of white fire shot across space. An Imperial cruiser vanished in a burst of ash. The second tower lit up. A wave of invisible force smashed into a dreadnought, crushing it like paper. One by one, the towers awakened, and Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a fortress hidden behind Sile. Intense panic spread across the comms. Captains screamed, "This is impossible! No world can build this!" But the truth was simple. Earth had been building in secret for decades. Every year of silence had been a year of preparation. Every closed gate had been a shield for their work. Admiral Kor roared in defiance. "We are the Empire. We will not kneel to humans." He ordered all ships to fire. A storm of light and missiles filled the void. But the towers did not fall. Their shields shimmered. Their cores burned brighter. They absorbed the storm and answered with destruction. Another wave of beams tore through the fleet. A line of Imperial warships broke apart in flames. A battleship exploded, its wreckage colliding with its allies. The Empire's formation shattered. The invincible fleet that once conquered the stars was being hunted like prey. Still, the humans did not speak. Not a single message came from Earth. No threats, no mercy. Only silence, and that silence was more terrifying than any war cry. Inside the flagship, Admiral Kor's hands shook. For the first time in his long life, he felt the weight of fear. He thought of the Emperor, of his promise of victory, and he wondered if he would ever see the Empire again. The humans had revealed only part of their power, and yet the Empire was already breaking. What greater weapons still waited behind Earth's gates? What other secrets still slept in the silence? The battle was not over, but the galaxy was already changing. For tonight, every starship captain, every soldier, every world would whisper the same words. Earth is not weak. Earth is not afraid. Earth has become something far beyond us. And as the last tower lit up, filling the void with light, the Empire finally realized the truth. They had not come to break Earth's gates. They had come to awaken the beast behind them. The battlefield was a graveyard of fire. Wreckage drifted through the void. Broken pieces of the Empire's once proud fleet. Sparks danced like dying stars. The silence of Earth had turned into a storm of destruct. Iron Admiral Kor stood frozen on his bridge. Half his fleet was gone. The rest scattered and broken. His voice trembled as he whispered, "This cannot be." But deep inside he knew the Empire had underestimated the wrong world, and then it happened. For the first time in decades, a human voice filled the galaxy. It came not from Earth itself, but from a single ship, a ship black as shadow with wings of silver light. It moved slowly, calmly, as if time itself bent around it. The voice was clear, strong, and cold. "This is Earth," it said. "You were warned." Every soldier, every captain, every world listening felt their hearts shake. The words were simple, but they carried a weight greater than any fleet. The galaxy had waited years to hear Earth speak again, and now the silence was broken. But the words were not of peace. They were a warning, a sentence, a promise of what was to come. The ship moved closer, glowing with energy. Its cannons hummed with power never seen before. An imperial moon fortress stood nearby, armed with thousands of guns. It had destroyed countless enemies before, but the human ship fired once. A single beam of light cut through the void. The fortress cracked apart like glass, shattering into 1,000 burning pieces. Gasps echoed across the galaxy. A weapon like this should not exist. No single ship should have the strength to crush a fortress. But this was no ordinary ship. This was humanity's answer to centuries of tyranny. The voice returned, colder than before. "We asked for silence. You brought war. Now you will learn why we closed our gates." The Empire's soldiers trembled. Some dropped their weapons. Some begged to retreat. But Admiral Kor stood rigid, pride and terror mixing in his veins. He shouted, "We are not afraid of you." But the truth was written in his eyes. He was afraid, more than he had ever been. The human ship, too, armed its cannons toward the fleet, but it did not fire. Instead, the voice said, "This is mercy. Leave now or be erased." For a moment, the entire galaxy held its breath. Would the Empire retreat? Would they kneel? Or would their pride drive them into doom? The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion, because now the galaxy understood. Earth had not returned as a member of the stars. Earth had returned as a power greater than the stars themselves. The warning from Earth echoed through every channel. It was simple, it was cold, and it was final. But the Empire was not ready to bow. Their pride was heavier than their fear. Admiral Kor's hands shook on the command chair. His officers looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. They wanted to retreat. They wanted to live, but his pride chained them to death. He roared, "We are the Empire. We do not kneel to a backwater world." The fleet tried to regroup, broken ships limping into formation. But the human ship stood before them, glowing like a shadowed sun, and behind it the towers of Earth still burned with power. The galaxy watched, holding its breath. On distant worlds, leaders whispered to each other, "If the Empire falls here, who will protect us?" Others whispered, "No, not who will protect us, who will rule us." Because in that moment, the galaxy saw a new empire rising, not the empire of tyranny, but the silent power of Earth. And then the gates opened. For decades, the humans had closed their system, sealed their skies. Now, for the first time, the gates flared with light, and out of the void came fleets, not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands. Ships of every size, black and silver, engines burning blue. They filled the system like a storm, their formations perfect, their silence unbroken. Panic tore through the Empire's ranks. Soldiers cried out, captains screamed. One whispered, "This is not war, this is extermination." But the human voice spoke again, calm and sharp. "You called us weak, you forced open our gates. Now you will see what we became in silence." The human fleet spread out surrounding the broken Empire armada. The trap was complete. The hunters were caged. Every path of escape was blocked by human steel. Still Admiral Kor would not bend. His pride screamed louder than the truth. He shouted, "If we die as warriors of the Empire." He ordered a final charge. The fleet lurched forward, broken but desperate. They fired everything, beams, missiles, plasma, all against the wall of human ships. And then Earth answered. Thousands of cannons fired at once. The void became day. In a single instant, half the Imperial fleet was gone. Ships vaporized, shattered, erased in silence. Screams filled the comms before fading into nothing. The galaxy trembled. On distant worlds, the people watched and understood. The age of the Empire was ending. A new power had taken the stage. One born from silence, one forged in patience, one too dangerous to ignore. And in that storm of fire, one thought burned in every alien heart. If this was Earth opening its gates, what else still waited behind them? The battlefield was silent again. But this silence was different. It was not the silence of waiting. It was the silence of victory. The Empire's fleet was gone, burned away in fire and shadow. Only broken pieces drifted through the void. Admiral Cor's flagship floated half-destroyed, its proud banners torn and scattered. He sank into his chair, his eyes hollow. The Empire had never known defeat like this. And yet today they had been crushed, not by an ancient race, not by gods, but by humans. Across the galaxy, billions watched, every world, every leader, every soldier. They had expected Earth to fall. Instead, they had seen the Empire humiliated. The whispers began to spread. The age of the Empire is ending. The age of Earth has begun. Then the voice of Earth returned. It was no longer cold, no longer hidden. It was strong, calm, and filled with power. To the galaxy, the voice said, "We were silent because we were preparing. We were patient because we were watching. But today, the Empire forced our gates open. And today, we show the truth." The human fleet spread across the stars, their numbers endless, each ship glowing with strange energy, each formation perfect. It was not just an army, it was an announcement, the voice continued. The galaxy has suffered long under tyranny, worlds broken, species enslaved, freedom stolen. That time is over. Earth will not bow. Earth will not be silent again. We rise not to rule, but to free. Aliens on distant worlds cried with hope. Races who had long suffered under the Empire now raised their voices. For the first time they saw a chance of liberation, a chance of justice. But in the halls of the Empire, leaders trembled. They understood what this meant. Humanity was no longer a hidden race. They were a new power, one greater than the Empire itself, a power born from silence and vengeance. Admiral Cor's broken voice whispered, "This is not the end of Earth. This is the end of us." The humans did not fire again. They allowed the survivors to flee because mercy itself had become a weapon. The message was clear. The humans could destroy the Empire in one night, but they chose to let them live, to let the galaxy spread the story, to let fear and awe do what cannons could not, and so the whispers grew louder. Earth has returned. Earth will lead. Earth will change the stars. From that day, the galaxy was no longer ruled by the Empire. It was ruled by fear of Earth, by hope in Earth, by the silence that had become louder than war. And as the gates of Earth burned with light, the final truth was spoken across the stars. They closed their gates not to hide, but to prepare. And when they opened, they did not return as a world. They returned as rulers of the stars.